And we are live. Welcome, everybody. My name is Matt Phillips, creator of OneChatLive.com. And this is episode 221 of the Sports Therapy Association podcast, recorded as always live every Tuesday at 8 o'clock on the Sports Therapy Association YouTube channel. As you can see, if you've joined us on YouTube for the live recording or on Facebook, 8 people on the screen tonight, the maximum I can squeeze into a podcast episode, because tonight what we're going to do is we're going to reflect on Therapy Expo 2024 that took place last week in the Birmingham NEC in the UK on Wednesday, November the 26th and Thursday the 27th. For those of you who are regular listeners to the podcast, you'll know that the STA Update Theatre in Therapy Expo was bigger and better than ever, with 2 days, as always, of presentations from amazing speakers. As well as all the stuff going on the outside with the marvelous hands-on hub and all the theatres and the networking possibilities and the speaker lounges and fantastically, ridiculously priced coffee and stuff. That was all around with us. And tonight I have the pleasure of bringing you 7 attendees, multidisciplinary panel, which I'm really excited about, because after all, the Expo does kind of sell itself as a multidisciplinary conference. So I'm really excited to bring this to you. So if you have joined us live, then the advantage you've got is you can ask our guests questions live. You can comment yourself. And I'm hoping that if you do join us live, you can put your own experiences, particularly if you went there. And also, if you didn't go there, I really want to hear tonight why you didn't go. Were there barriers? Was it too expensive? Could you not find accommodation? Had you seen it all before? Were you not impressed with the program? Or maybe there was other reasons you just couldn't afford to take 2 days off clinic, whatever it was. Okay, because I really want to hear the pros and the cons for it. So that's it. We're all here. Hey, everybody.
Hiya.
That's it. We'll say hi.
Hi.
Right.
Hi.
So what we're going to do then, for the benefit of the people who have joined us on the podcast, I reckon this might be tricky, but I'm going to call out your name and then maybe just within 20, 30 seconds, tell us your name, your profession, where you're from or where you're based, and how many times you've been to Therapy Expo. Does that make sense? So I'll go around in no particular order. I'll just read them out from a crib sheet. NatalIe Heng, you're first. You're up.
I'm a clinical and sports massage therapist. I'm based in London, and this was my first time.
Right, Therapy Expo, fantastic. Thank you very much. Shannon Byrne.
Thanks so much. I am Shannon Byrne. I'm the owner of Rebound Injury Clinic in Dublin, Ireland, and I also lecture in Portobello Institute in their Bachelor of Science in Sports Therapy program. I'm a sports therapist, and I think this is year 4 of going to the Therapy Expo, 3 or 4.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Brilliant. And Danielle Peters.
Hi, I'm Danielle Peters. I run Body Health Gatwick, in Gatwick, as it says. I'm a graduate sports therapist. I believe this is the 3rd time I've been to Sports Therapy Expo myself.
Amazing. Steve Yeoman.
I'm Steve. I'm based in Warrington. I'm a sports therapist, and that's my second time I've attended.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Steve. And Chareeya. Do you want to try his surname? Go on. Chareeya Kaewsawang.
Pretty close. I would
Thank
say
you very
that's a
much.
nice try.
Thank you.
Kaewsawang. I know.
Oh, yeah, really close.
Yeah, really close. So, hi, I'm Chareeya. I'm from 𝐒𝐩𝐨𝐬𝐭 and 𝐾 Physiotherapy, based in Glasgow. This is my first time in Therapy Expo.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Chareeya. And Emily, sweet.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm a physio. I'm based down in Plymouth. I'm a physio in the NHS, but also just recently joined 𝐼𝐸, so the private physio clinic. And this was my first year attending.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And last but by no means least, Nicki Shearman. See, I told you I'd get it wrong.
Hi. I'm Nicki Shearman, and I own Shearman Podiatry. I'm in Worcester. I've been working 25 years pretty much now, and I've been to Therapy Expo about 3 or 4 times. I can't quite remember.
Fantastic. I'm so happy, first of all, that you've all said yes, which is amazing, because I know you're busy clinicians. Some of you literally finished about 5 minutes ago. So I really appreciate your time. And also such a lovely selection. There's people who from different disciplines, which was going to be really interesting as well. And people have been there 1 time, 2 times, 4 times. So there should be lots of different experiences. Nikki Mansfield is in the house, obviously. Nikki Mansfield says, hey, all, sorry I'm late. Head cold messing with my brain. Nikki, all I can say is it's not man flu, so just you're fine. Don't worry. You can't get the worst kind of cold and flu out there.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Thank you, Steve. I'm glad you joined me in that. Brilliant. Right. So we'll start. Thanks for joining us, Nicki. And don't forget, people, if you are listening, do put some questions in there or put some experiences, how Therapy Expo went for you. So let's, I don't want to start on or maybe it's not a downer, but I think the elephant in the room normally, which listeners will want to know about, is about the cost. Now, this will obviously vary on people. It's not going to vary too much because you're all healthcare providers. So none of you got Mercedes outside your front door because you're in the wrong profession for that. But I'm interested, and we'll go around the room again. I'm interested whether it was a barrier for you, whether it was an issue. Obviously, you all made it in the end. But I'm wondering how you made it. Did you have to structure something, or how did you manage to get 2 days off clinic? And I appreciate it will vary depending on whether you're by yourself or in a multidisciplinary clinic or whatever. But I'm interested about costs. So maybe let's go in the same order on my list so I don't leave people out. Natalie, was it a problem for you?
So I think I got the early bird, so it's like 120 pounds or something rather than 180 pounds. And initially I actually was like, oh, I don't know. I was having some cash flow stuff. So my friend actually bought the ticket for me, which was a mistake because there were issues with the app. But I feel like 120 pounds, yeah, I think that's decent for like 2 days of like jam-packed full of stuff. You get like your CPD in. So I feel like, I think it's worth it, and you can like call it an expense as well. So
how was it for, because you've got the entrance, and there is early bird tickets, and also STA members get load things, and you might be with an association who gives you discounts and stuff. But what about the extra costs of here? Some people say, like, you went to both days, did you?
Yeah.
Did you go to 2 days? And how was accommodation? Did you have something else sorted out, or how did you manage that?
Airbnb with a couple of friends, so that was pretty decent. We went for a cheap place. Maybe next time I'll go for a less cheap place. But yeah, it was nice.
Really? Was it a very cheap place then?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
We did that one year.
Yeah.
I made a mistake. I put my hand down the side of the bed, and I'm never going to forget what I found there. It was horrible. Yeah. But no, Airbnb, we mentioned that like 4 months ago. We were doing, right, people, listen, now's the time. Get your Airbnb. I know somebody, the Hands on Hub had like 18 people in a house, and it was like 1,300 for 18 people, just like £65 each or something. It was like doable for 2 nights. So yeah, good shout. So you managed it in the end. That's good. Okay, let's go to Shannon. What was it like for you? Was it ever a barrier?
I wasn't as lucky on the accommodation front. I was very well prepared from the tickets because, like I said, I've been to Therapy Expo a couple of times. So I typically try and buy the tickets when I'm there. And then by the time I get there, it seems like it's free. I don't know if anybody does maths that way, but because I've bought it so far in advance, it's nearly free. Luckily enough, I'd booked my flights early on too, and I had another event in Blackpool the weekend, so I was able to double up. So I was flying to the UK on Wednesday morning. I'd be in the airport at 4 a.m. Wasn't sure how my brain was going to hold up for the full day. And then I actually only arrived home back to Dublin last night. So I kind of got a dual trip this time around, whereas normally that would be 2 flights in 2 weeks for me. The flights, because I booked them early enough, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 months ago, were quite cheap. The accommodation, I must have gone on and priced the accommodation and not booked it. So when I went on maybe 3 weeks before the expo to double check where my hotel was, I realized I didn't book anything. So for my 2 nights in Travelodge, I think it cost me close to £300.
Right.
So definitely an expensive mistake to make that I probably won't make again. And I probably wouldn't do the red eye flight on the Wednesday morning again either, because by the time I got to the end of the day, my brain was definitely ready to switch off. So the extra expense of maybe another hotel the night before would probably be beneficial in terms of taking in as much information as possible on the day. So again, another kind of added expense for anybody that's coming from a little bit further out. But again, I buy my ticket well enough in advance for it. I think I paid £99 plus VAT, and then the extra £20 for the recordings for next year. So I think it might have worked out as £150 in advance, which I don't think again is too bad considering the amount of CPD that you're getting, the network and all that sort of stuff too. But I might book the hotel a little bit earlier this time around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so booking ahead, doing it earlier on, bit of
or like that,
organisation.
jumping in with somebody else. I was traveling on my own, so maybe if I was sharing the hotel with a colleague and we were splitting the cost, it might not be as bad. But traveling on my own, it was definitely more expensive.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. How about Danny? How was it for you? coming up from
Yeah,
Gatwick?
good. So actually, I learned from my mistakes. I did. I went up on the Tuesday night, Shannon. Because my brain can't handle a 5 a.m. start and then a full day of learning. Like I get to about 2 o'clock and I'm just fried. So I went up Tuesday night. So for me to get to Birmingham is about 3.5 hours. So it's not the quickest journey. This year I was a bit lucky because my other half happened to be working in Leicester in the same week, which is an hour away. So we ended up staying in Coventry, which is about a half hour, 40 minutes away. And I've been to Birmingham a couple of times now for various things. And honestly, if you just stay outside near a train line, it is so easy to get in on train. And it's much cheaper than staying in actual Birmingham city as well. So yeah, I highly recommend like going just to Coventry instead, or look at the train line because they're dead easy. So Nicki Mansell just seen staying over in Coventry. Yeah, so there you go. Just stay slightly outside. You'll probably get a really nice accommodation as well for the price. Ours is beautiful. It's like on a farm. It's lovely.
Great advice. Yes, that's brilliant. Yes, staying slightly outside. Yeah, Nikki has said recommend staying over in Coventry, much cheaper than Solihull, Broome. Dead easy travel by train or drive. Stay near the A45, and it's pretty much 50 minutes in a straight line to the NEC. It's true. If anybody's not aware of the NEC, there's literally like a 10-minute skywalk, they call it, don't they, from the station into the actual conference area. So all these things may help you if that was your fear of not going this year. Thank you, Danny. Steve.
I was in the very fortunate position that I was taken as a guest of one of the exhibitors. So my ticket cost me nothing.
Oh, nice. It's who you know, isn't it, Steve?
All it cost me was obviously my petrol and my hotel, which I stayed at the Premier over the road and just walked across the car park. So
that's very nice.
That's the best way to do it if you can,
How long were you stalking this exhibitor for in order to build up a relationship and be able to stay in their house?
I actually know that exhibitor actually asked me if I wanted to go.
Really?
Because I balked at the cost. When they mentioned it, I said, I don't know, because of the cost implication and taking time off work, etc. And then they said, no, come as my guest.
Very nice.
So I don't know if you noticed on my tag, it did say exhibitor.
I didn't,
because I was on there.
I had no reason to look at your chest. Yeah. Oh no, that's good. That's a nice little success story. So good on you.
If you can manage to, if you know somebody who's exhibiting, that's a great way to do it.
Okay, nice one. Cecily Hislop says, I stayed in the Hands-on Hub Party House. Highly recommend it. Yes, Cecily, I've still got that picture you drew. We won't go any further than that, shall we? No. Indri Moschini has joined us saying, sorry, I'm late. People who have joined us late, if you went to Therapy Expo, then feel free to put some stuff in the comments and we will pick up on them. Chareeya, how did you manage to get from sunny Glasgow down to
sunny Birmingham? Glasgow, definitely. So because I am luckily the tickets for the expo, my boss, she got it for me, so I don't have to pay anything. Thank you so much, Natalie. Thank you so much to my boss, Natalie. Sorry. I'm also for the trains. I took the train from Glasgow Central, and it took me probably 5 hours. It's really tired, and also I travel the same day, so I wake up for 4 and then reach there for 10, half 10. And then luckily I got the hotel from Trip, so it's not too bad for one night, 100 quid. But so in general, it's pretty well worth it for CPD, but quite a long journey to travel from Glasgow, and just 2 days and 1 night and back at the second day. And I think I reached Glasgow probably 1 a.m. on Friday.
That's tough going. That's hardcore.
Yeah,
I think there was a few people there this year who were part of a team. I don't know whether I just started looking for it, but I think Emily, you were part of a team, weren't you? Did your actually, I might be starting off an issue here. Did your boss pay for you, Emily, or did you have to pay yourself?
No, I was really lucky. Yeah, shout out to Isla for
lucky about that. I'll get in trouble with Isla.
No, there was a couple of my colleagues as well. They were meant to be going and then they couldn't go, so that's why Isla had the spare ticket. So I kind of went very last minute. I only had a couple weeks notice. and like I work like full time in the NHS in the MSK outpatient department. So it just happened to be that on the Thursday I had annual leave anyway, so I didn't have to request anything. And then for me to go all day on the Wednesday, I only had the afternoon of patients to sort of reorganize. So I was very fortunate to be able to go, because I think if I had full obviously diary for those couple of days and only a couple of weeks notice, I wouldn't have been able to attend. So yeah, I was really lucky. And cool. Accommodation wise, we did Airbnb, so there was five of us in total. So yeah, we just split it all, and again, Isla was amazing and drove us all up. So
I guess that was booked again a bit in advance, was it, to get a decent Airbnb?
Yeah, I believe I think Isla did the early bird offer, I think, as well. She booked it the following year before.
Yeah. I mean, anyone who pays full price for Therapy Expo is missing out something huge, because I think it's like full price is on about 300 quid or something, or it's like a fortune. So it's interesting. I wonder whether people out there who do work in a clinic with a few people, maybe there is a conversation to be had there with your boss, because I imagine there's some deal if they say, look, I've got 3 workers who want to go along to this event, or maybe there is a way of doing it. And then also you can book an Airbnb and kind of, so yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and interesting from like being outside of the private setting for a long time. I actually didn't know Therapy Expo was a thing. And I guess a lot of like my colleagues in the NHS and things, if we didn't know about it, we wouldn't think about booking it in a year in advance, and then we would get to the point of coming close to the time being like, there's no way we could afford that and get the time off.
Yes, you didn't know about it, so we'll talk to marketing at Therapy Expo later on. The fact that, and you work whereabouts, in what hospital?
So I'm part of
Cornwall, aren't you?
I am based in Cornwall. I'm Saltash. So I'm the better side of the Tamar Bridge, but no, I work in Derriford, Plymouth. So UHP.
Okay, yeah. So it's interesting that they don't know about Therapy Expo. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll talk about how you not being in the private sector, what you found then, if it was useful to you. So we just have Nicki. How was it for you? Was there a cost ever a barrier for you?
For us in podiatry, we have the annual conference as well at the same time. It's the same week. Last year, I managed to double book myself when I was at Therapy Expo one day, and then it was ridiculous. Anyway, but this year I managed to be very organised, and I was just coming to Therapy Expo because I work in Worcester, and Worcester's not that far anyway. It's like 40 minutes to Birmingham. So me and the physio that works with me, we sort the kids out, and then we tend to get there like a little late, so we tend to actually miss the first talk, which is really annoying, because often the first one's one of the ones that I want to go and see. We generally book ahead in advance anyway, so that's all fine. But parking can be a problem, so as long as you book the parking in advance too, then it's a bit cheaper.
So it all seems to be in advance, doesn't it? Which isn't a surprise, I think, but the amount of feedback we get from people, I know I can't afford that, it was too much. There does seem to be a correlation between people who maybe aren't that organised or didn't book it ahead. It seems to be the biggest reason. That's why we spend so long in the first kind of 20 minutes talking about it, because it's the biggest obstacle, I think. It doesn't have to be that expensive. Let's move on to, you've got a decent deal, you've arrived there. What about content? So I think it's interesting. I don't know how to do this. It is interesting that we have got a selection of different disciplines here in terms of sports massage therapists, sports therapists, physios, podiatrists. I don't know whether to do it in order or whether just to see if there's any correlation between them. What do you think, guys? Should we go around and do it in order in terms of profession, or should we just say what we enjoyed and see if there's a correlation? They're all looking at me going, I don't know, Matt, you're the host, you tell us. Okay, let's start with massage therapist. Okay, it's massage therapist. So Natalie, that's you. Yeah. How did you find it being a massage therapist? First of all, just to reiterate, when did you qualify? When you say you're a sports massage therapist, how long ago did you qualify?
I started the first course in 2018, and then so I did like a beginner's thing, and then I did the ACMT. I trained with Jing next year, and then so I think there was COVID, so like I don't know, 2018, 19, like 2019, 2020, something like that, I guess.
And is there a level then involved? What level would you be?
level 6. I know I'm not supposed to say that with this. Yeah.
You can say that in the show, it's
level
fine.
5, level 6. Yeah, I did the BTEC
Okay,
6.
fine.
Yeah.
So you're allowed through your certification to work with people who are injured.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not the same,
yes.
because often with massage therapy, if it's after 2012 or something, we think you can only work with kind of pre or post event, or it's all got very complicated now. But you are actually a massage therapist who is allowed to work with injured people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so really you're in the same bag as sports therapists. Don't start stoning me, sports therapists, if you've done 3 or 4 years degrees or BScs or anything. But I was under the impression you were just not just, that's a terrible thing to say, that you were.
I don't, rehab stuff like that. I don't really, do. I have like basic sort of suggestions, but I definitely, that's kind of beyond like my scope. So I'm sure there's a big difference between sports therapists and massage therapists.
There is, if it's a level 3 massage therapist. Let's chuck kind of certificates on the wall aside. Let's go with what you all found, one or two things you really were surprised at and you found really useful. So maybe Chareeya, let's start with you. What stood out for you in terms of positive, useful information?
So my backgrounds, besides the clinics that I work for MSK, I also work as sport physio for football as well. And from my point of view, there's 2 main things that I think is quite useful for first of all, like the talks, especially sport related. They might don't have that much football related. They might have a lot of, shoulder injury and runner. But there's a brilliant talk by Dr. Bilos about ACL quads reconstruction, which is we've seen a lot in football. Is really useful. We normally see hamstring graft. Right now, it seems like we are going to the new era of quads graft as well. Is really useful. And then in terms of MSK, as a physio who work in private clinics, I initially quite struggle with the managing times, how to managing the time and maximize the productivities. So I think most of the talk is really, really useful, like kind of like shape your ideas, how you can manage things, not just only the knowledge and also how you manage productivities while you're working. That's what I like.
Some of the kind of business related organizations. Yes. Anybody in particular stand out for you with regards to that? Do you remember any names or? There's quite a few of them.
For you mean for the business and maximizing? Yeah. I like TikTok efficiency from Mike James, right? James is quite good. And then because of I don't go and listen to that much kind of like business and entrepreneur idea how to manage the clinics, because obviously I'm not the clinic owners, but I like the idea of kind of like how you manage in terms of your being a physio and how you can help patients as a whole, and also you can maximizing productivities and not like doing everything in 1 hour. Try to prioritize things, which is really good.
Okay, so 2 themes there we're going to throw to the floor. First of all, sports specific stuff. Did anybody feel that they would have liked something more sports? You can't cover all the sports, but I don't think there was many talks there that were particularly sports specific, were there, or did I miss them?
There's netball.
Apart from netball.
And also the runners, the inter runner that you did.
Oh yeah, there's some excellent running presentations.
Yeah,
sure. Got about
and
that.
also like I feel like we should have more varieties of sports, or maybe like because we are UK, like football like that. Yeah. But I want to see more rugby in the future. But that's good. We have concussion guidelines as well.
Yeah,
like we want to see a mix of everything. Badminton's also a lot of shoulder injury. That's why I'm kind of like expecting more variety of sport in the expo, because it's going to be more like that. So
maybe a sports theatre, maybe one of the theatres dedicated to different types of sports. Let's throw it open. Anybody else feel they would have liked to see particular sports in there, or do you think?
Yeah, from previous years, Matt, there was the likes of 𝐒𝐻𝐵ailey there talking about dancers and dance injuries and that sort of stuff. And I work with quite a lot of dancers, and I was a dancer myself. So a lot of my clients would be dancers, just I suppose it's a natural progression for me being a dancer. So I always really enjoyed Liz's talks in the past, and she wasn't there this year. And I think Steph the Act would have been the closest to dance specific, even though her talks were more around kind of hypermobility and hypermobility Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. But it definitely would have been nicer to have some more specific to dance, because like when we look at the research, there's a lot in relation to ballet specifically, but not other genres of dance. So like you were saying, it is some sort of a sports theatre that would maybe do kind of a couple of different sports. It would definitely help practitioners that are working within specific sports to kind of maybe go to one or two of those talks that match up with their clientele.
Definitely. The netball was Tom Astley, wasn't it? I think I
Yes.
remember rightly. Yeah. Just give Tom a little shout out. Fantastic. Any other comments on sports specific? Danny, would you like to see some combat sports? I mean, that's your neck of the woods. Would you like to see something specific to that, or have you got enough of that? Do you want to get away from that?
No, absolutely. I mean, I don't think there was any martial arts this year at all. I know in the past I remember there was one about boxing, but it was more about their kind of their progression in the sport rather than actually anything from a therapist point of view. So yeah, absolutely, I totally agree. There should be more varieties of sports spoken. I love the idea of maybe having a theatre dedicated purely just to chatting about pros and cons of sports, things you're going to likely see in that sport. Something like that would be really, really helpful. How you would address it, what prehab maybe you could do, like just a bit of life experience is always. I really enjoy them sort of style of talks. I do, because I obviously run a business. I do enjoy actually the business stuff as well. I find it really focuses my thoughts and gives me a bit of direction, and good things always come as well from networking with those people as well. They do give you some good ideas, and then you can take it back. So I remember the dancer ones last year, and I absolutely love them, to be fair. I often share the slides on my Instagram stories for my clients, and it doesn't matter really what sport they are, and they love it. They love seeing what I do behind the scenes, and I share some of the slides, and especially if it's a sport that they happen to do, they're like, oh, I didn't realize that. That's really cool. So yeah, I think having a variety really helps reach a broader mind as well.
Any other comments on particular sports that you would like to have seen or that haven't been mentioned?
I mean, rugby, yeah, I agree. Rugby wasn't there at all, I don't think. I was lucky to go to another conference in Birmingham the month before, and they had loads of rugby in that one. So maybe they all got exhausted the month before. But yeah, obviously martial arts, even some winter sports would be nice to see. You never see anything about the winter sports, skiing, skating, stuff like that, something a bit more obscure. Even just that you wouldn't have naturally thought of would be wonderful to hear someone's experience in that, and it might inspire someone who, especially a student or something who's thinking of where they're going to go. They don't always jump into the big sports or the top tier of football or rugby. They might end up in a bit of a slightly odd sport or I'm just throwing things out there, but like volleyball or something, badminton, which isn't necessarily as popular. But that's sometimes the entry level that people have to go through and usually end up loving, to be fair. So, yeah, it would be nice to see a variety and open up horizons a little bit, I think.
It's a good idea. We're already thinking of ways to develop it. I can't wait until the management listen to this. And we will have a chat with them in about 3 or 4 weeks with Molly and Vern and Charlotte again, and they will appreciate all of this feedback. Anybody... Slight university challenge. Anybody on the bottom row, showing my age now, Nicki or Steve, anybody in particular sports that you would like to see mentioned? Or do you think it's the place where they should be focusing on sports? Or Emily? Or no?
I think one of the issues I had was trying to get around to the various talks. The timing of them, clashing, networking, catching up with people, that kind of thing. It's just, it really is. It seems really full on.
It is
2 days. I actually came away saying we need a third day. But then again, there's a cost and there's time off work, all that kind of thing. But
yeah.
So I was thinking about this, maybe they could video the talks and give us access to those videos afterwards. Because you can't get. I mean, some of them did overlap, didn't they?
Yeah.
Has talked about. They were recorded as long as people were speaking into the mic, and videos I don't think they're doing yet. But
so apparently you could buy the videos, and I actually did. I tried to buy them, although there's been some issues with that. So that was going to be something I was going to say. It'd be nice if they were free.
What you mean? If you paid for your ticket, you get the video as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you could technically go to everything, but time-wise, you couldn't.
I thought if there was the hip impingement one, I know that like I really wanted to get to, and I turned up like 10, 15 minutes before, and the queue was massive, and they already said they were like, it's going to be full, like you can't like go in. But I thought they scanned our barcodes, and they said that the presentation would be sent to us.
What, the slides?
I'm not too sure. Yeah, I haven't got anything. I didn't know whether there was just going to be like a delay of getting them, but that was kind of them reassuring us that don't worry, we're going to scan your barcode, and then you'll get sent the slides. But we were kind of like, oh yeah, okay. And then it wasn't until we reflected on it, we were like, wait, how's that going to work? Because if they've scanned it, that would mean we've attended. So I'm not too sure.
That happened last year, and I was told at one of the talks, if we scan you, you'll get the slides and the recording. And I was like, oh, great, no problem. And then I got in contact with them a couple of weeks later, and I got nothing. And they were like, oh, you don't have the package to add the videos on. And I was like, but they're telling people at the doors of these theaters, you're getting this stuff sent to you, and you're just not. So like I mentioned to Matt actually just at the last presentation when we were rounding things up, if we could book a seat in the talks that we were really looking forward to, so say if they released the timetable a couple of weeks beforehand, and you know everybody favorites the ones that they want to go to and creates their little timetable. If they could look at that and then say, okay, right, well, 100 people want to go to this hip impingement, that needs to go into the biggest theater, or maybe we need to put it on both days, so we need to kind of duplicate the timetable for the really popular ones to happen twice, so that there's actually enough time and enough spaces for people to see the content that they want to see. Because like that, the tickets are expensive enough on their own. An extra £20 then for recordings, and like that, it might just be one talk that you want the recording of. In my case this year, there was 2 talks I didn't get to see, and I was like, oh, it's £20 for an hour of 2 different recordings of something I didn't see. And like that, there might have been issues with a microphone, or you might not see what they're actually doing. So that could be another implication. And I'm pretty sure the first year I went, there was talk of the videos being included, but again, I didn't receive them, and there was some sort of technical error, and then they started adding on the cost for the videos, and I was kind of like, sure, I should have gotten them for free last year, why would I pay for them again?
Yeah. Okay. That's giving you something to ask them about. There's a little bit of chatter in the live lounge here. Gary says some talks went over time, creating problems. Therapy Expo can only provide audio recordings due to limitations. Presentations usually take several weeks to be made available. Okay. So yeah, it does take a while for them to get through to you. Nikki has said, I think something we've commented on. You can buy a premium ticket, which includes recordings, and you can buy an upgrade for £20 to get the recordings. That's what you were saying, wasn't it, Shannon? Overheard that when I was at the next year's ticket desk. Indre has said, just bringing this up on the screen. We can still purchase recordings for £20. I've done it last year, and I can still access the TE 2023 library. No videos, just voice and slides.
Yes, I've purchased them for my ticket for next year, but I didn't realize it was just audio, which is kind of, again, another implication, because what if it's quite practical and they're demonstrating something? So say, Matt, for your talk, for example, on the gait analysis, we wouldn't have been able to see how you were applying anything. We would have just heard your voice over it.
Yeah, that's that'd be awful.
Yeah, it wouldn't be as interesting.
The only thing I've got going for me is the visual. If you just get the audio, it's terrible.
I've actually got Matt's slides because I photographed them.
What?
I've got your slides because I photographed them.
God, I'll be talking to you. I'll be finding you. Right, yeah. So yes. I mean, there's a few things there which we need to raise with them. I mean, first of all, let's do an order. I don't want to get all negative. We will shine on a few other people which really stood out. But not getting into the theatre. This was something that was picked up on last year. It was the main feedback. We've come all this way. We've paid our tickets. Really, we want to see so-and-so. We couldn't get in, and that is really kind of quite devastating. In the past, they have kind of tried to do booking it and ordering it ahead and getting a reservation or something like that. Never kind of worked. Is that something that's always going to happen at conferences, or do you think you've got, I mean, one solution might be getting the video, like you say, then at least you can sit down in your own time and watch the video. But I guess there's always going to be queues for certain people, and it's just who's there first, isn't it? It's tricky.
We did it as a group. We ended up like tag teaming it in a way. If we knew that like we were lucky that there was 5 of us. So yeah, if we saw something was busy or there was like talks at the same time, we were kind of like, okay, yeah, maybe you guys go and see if you can get into that one. We'll see if we can get into this one, and then obviously feedback. That was sort of our plan of action when we realised how busy the queues were.
Yeah, it is a problem.
So mine is pretty much the same as Emily. So we went there as a group. So we kind of like spread out and then queued in different talks. But I think the other idea is besides of just send the recording or purchase for the recording, might be give the live videos for the people who cannot actually get in. And you can just watch, like you say, or if you might have like some like additional extra space, like I'm not sure, this might have space at the back that kind of like unused a little bit, and you can just pop the space there for like people who cannot get in, or have additional extra theater for the people, like for the talk that is really, really famous for like hips or knees or shoulder, that people line up for 20 minutes prior the talks and then cannot get in, for like sit on the additional theater, and then you can watch the live that happens there. And I think, and also one thing that I think is kind of like a little bit frustrating is I feel like when you have to queue it up into the theater, you actually cause congestion in the fronts of the booths. And then that kind of like is really hard to see, you know, if you want to see what happened in that booth, and then you also, what happened here? Why the lineup is so maybe have a wee space or area for queuing into the theater, not exactly right in front of kind of like the booth, just in front of the talks or the theaters. That can be like, make it more like the layout and organization space for me a little bit confusing at the times.
Yeah, it did seem this year the queues were just going in front of all the exhibitor stalls rather than previously when they were kind of along the wall.
Was worse than in previous years. Like I remember being there, I think the last 2 times I was there was kind of space outside the theater to enter that wasn't blocking other exhibitors. And I think that worked better. Whereas this year it was kind of, you know, theater A, theater B, and then there was like it was on a slightly different level for theater C, and it was kind of awkward to navigate it for the first kind of maybe hour or two, and then you're like, right now I know where I'm going. Whereas in previous years it was a little bit clearer, and there was some things kind of hanging from the roof to show you exactly where to go. And although there was some of that this year, I felt like it was slightly less than in previous years, if that makes sense. I don't know if anyone else would agree, but it was definitely a little bit harder to navigate.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the worst sense of direction in the world. I get lost. Anyone who watches me next year will realise I'm spending most of the time trying to find my way back to the STA Theatre, just following carpet colours and ending up miles away. But so it's always difficult for me, but it's interesting to hear other people have problems as well. Let's just go into a positive. Let's go to Natalie. What's shone out for you? What did you really enjoy this year?
That's me, right?
Yep, that's you, Natalie.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was my first time coming, so I think the thing that I enjoyed most was just feeling like I was part of like the bigger picture, and getting to go and like be amongst talks that were relevant to what I do, and like a lot of the more specific stuff like injury based, I was kind of more interested in the kind of bigger picture stuff, like the talks about pain in general. And yeah, so the biggest thing for me was being able to just feel like, get excited about being part of something bigger, and feel validated as a massage therapist, that like it's sort of like,
That's really interesting, because there is that aspect. It's not just the talks. We always say this, it's not just going to see the talks. That is obviously part of it, but it's that being with other people, and that's that you're also kind of paying for that, really, although it sounds weird, but you're paying for meeting other people, and what you talk about outside the theatre can be just as useful, can't it, as being in there. So that's nice to hear, especially if it's your first time. So did you go with anybody? I can't remember. Did you go with anyone else?
A couple of massage therapists.
Okay, so you weren't totally by yourself, because that's something we've talked about as well, what it's like for the person who's totally solo.
Yeah, we all split up like and did different things, and we were interested in different things, but
But it's okay. You felt looked after and not too alone there.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't really time to feel lonely, because there's just so much to do. You're just kind of like, let's go see this, go see that, and then
Do you remember any particular speakers who stood out for you? This is your chance to make them feel happy. It's going out to 2,000 people.
I really liked the talk by, I can't remember what the Tristan Attenborough.
Attenborough, yeah, he'll love that. Well done.
One by Chris Norris, and the Flippin' Pain one. Those were all really like great, and I think relevant for like what I do.
Great.
And some of the marketing stuff was really good as well. HMDG and Katie Bell.
Katie Bell was massive. Yeah,
there was some really good bits of advice that actually, like, I was like, oh, actually, do you know what? Like, I need to do that, and I've actually gone and like like put them into action. I've started trying Google Ads. I've never done that before, so we'll see what happens. I was thinking of doing Facebook, but like watching the HMDG talk made me be like, okay, yeah, maybe Google it is, and like filling in FAQs on Google and putting more pictures of like the space on the website. And then there was a booth Clutch, like that, where you could like sign up for a free like website audit. I got some really useful advice with that as well, like what to do on the back end, like identified some problems with that. Like I'm not going to use their services because I'm like too small for it, but he was still like, oh yeah, no, but you can do this. So yeah, there was loads of like really things that I was surprised that I actually have taken away and have been able to like put into action. So that was really cool. I wasn't expecting
That's great.
that.
Wow, we really have gone positive now. We went soared out there. Screw the theatres we couldn't get into. After listening to that, Natalie, we all felt totally refreshed. Thank you.
The movement Born to Move one as well. That was really cool.
𝐭𝐲𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬
massage, and like as a bigger picture question. So there was just like lots of really interesting points of discussion that made me feel like, there's stuff going on like in my industry, and I want to be part of it, and I want to know what's going on. And so it's exciting in that sense.
Excellent stuff. What about, so you mentioned as well, and so did Chareeya, about the business side of things. Did anybody else feel that there was a good representation for how to run your business as opposed to sort of more techniques and stuff? Did anybody else go to any of them? Nicki, you're nodding. What did you go to and enjoy?
What, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose I'm Nicki. I was thinking, is there anyone else called Nicki?
I'm using the traditional system of just calling your name out, and
I didn't go to any business stuff. I feel very business saturated.
Right.
At the moment, all covered for me. But and also, being more of a specialist of the lower limb, we learn from the hip down. So if there's anything to do with concussion, then that's off my list. And so it's quite nice. Last year, I remember loads of things overlapping, and I had the whole fear of missing out thing all the time, and I didn't enjoy that. But this year, I've had like circled more. All of mine were a bit more spread out, and so it didn't go into. I normally find with these things that you pay for the day, and there's one talk that really, really shines out, and really you're paying for that talk, the one that really makes you change. And although I didn't quite manage it this time because I didn't make the 2 days, unfortunately, my mum had breast cancer, and so I was with her for the Thursday. But I did pay for the £20 like talks for the Thursday, well, for both days. So hopefully that helps. But of course, then as a private practitioner, you're then taking time out for the second that you wouldn't have necessarily needed to do.
Did you find your one talk then? Were you going to say, did you find your one talk which made it all worthwhile? It didn't happen in the end.
I wanted to come to no. I wanted to come to your talk on the Thursday because obviously, although I see, well, I mean, it's running and I have my treadmill. So although I see the quite chronic problems, I'm not really seeing the acute situations that much in our clinic. And I suppose because I've been NHS beforehand, we don't see the acute straight away. They normally go and see A&E, and I disagree sometimes with what A&E has suggested. It's not my forte. And so I'm really interested in the adults at the moment. I'm the elderly and staying strong. So that was covered a little bit with one of the talks, which was quite nice. I don't just see elderly people. I had a 9-year-old earlier. It was, yes. And, when I look at all of these talks titles, I'm imagining what I might learn from it. And I'm imagining what the sorts of things that they might tell me, and then they don't always get to the nitty gritty. And I really like it prescriptive. I like to have like a little an actual be clear. Don't just go, yes, well, we give them some exercises. I like to say, well, what do you give them? How many do you give them? Like how quickly do you? Yeah, I like to know exactly where I stand, because then when you're treating your patients, you can feel confident of saying the right thing. You're not like, oh, I'm not sure exactly. Do
you work in a clinic? Do you work with just podiatrists, or are you in a kind of a multidisciplinary setup in Worcester? Is there a few different disciplines there, or?
I am my own clinic. I am just me, and then I have a spare room where the physio rents off me. So there's.
Okay. So you're sharing patients with the physio, are you, and kind of referring?
I think I crashed. Yeah, there's two of us. she refers to me, I refer to her. We're two separate businesses, two mums working together, powering on, and but it's really nice, and it means that then our patients know us as individuals, and although maybe as our kids grow up we'll expand and employ more people, but at the moment we're just on our own but together in it, so we came together to Therapy Expo, and I think this time I spent more time talking to the exhibitors than I had in the past. And I had some really great conversations with, I was talking to Chris Downton at CT Medical Sales, and he sells the EMS dollar class shockwave machine. And I always feel that the Ven shockwave, they have their own like stream, and I think it's really one-sided. And I don't know whether it's very clear to everyone who doesn't have shockwave how there are different shockwaves out there, and they're not necessarily comparable. And there are some that don't just maintain the strength of the shockwave. The higher you turn it, it doesn't really do exactly what you were hoping. So I was just having a really good chat with
so Exhibitors.
with the guys.
I want to open up. I wanted to mention Exhibitors. So as a podiatrist, then you found the Exhibitors there were useful for your needs. Other people in the room, were the Exhibitors useful to look around, or were you mostly in the theatres or in the theatre or in the in the theatres?
Oh, no, definitely.
Yeah, pretty much in the theatre for me.
No,
Who
I
else
always
was
go
with the
to
Exhibitors?
D3 is always my favorite exhibitor from a supplier's point of view for tapes and heat rubs and rehab waxes and all of the stuff that they do, and they've got a really nice message and a really nice group of people, so I always enjoy going to D3. But I think this year I spent less time going to Exhibitors and more times in the theatres, and I didn't really have much time on my schedule when I kind of figured out what talks I wanted to go to. So I don't know whether it'd be nice to have, an hour of a lunch break where there's no talks on, that people can actually network and go to the Exhibitors and maybe grab some food. I think on the Thursday it was nearly 3:00 by the time I grabbed a coffee because I was running around from talk to talk. So although I didn't have enough time for Exhibitors, it might be nice maybe the first hour of the day or the last hour of the day or somewhere in the middle to give some time for people to actually do a little bit more networking and not feel like they're missing out on a talk.
Good point. Emily, did you and your posse check out the Exhibitors much at all, or?
Was it? Yeah. I actually found it quite overwhelming. I think that was the first time I'd been, and and as well being quite new to like a lot of the equipment that was like used in sort of private settings and things. I didn't feel like I was in a very good position to, do you know what I mean, comparing things. I found it all quite overwhelming. So I think I shied away and spent all my time in the theatres. But I did get some feedback from Isla that I will just sort of read out, and because she is the business owner, and she said that she liked going round because she enjoyed being aware of like what investment can be made into the clinics, so sort of like softwares and equipment. So she found that really helpful, and she also did say as well she likes to see what sort of new bits of kit are coming onto the market, and then especially being able to see that practically. I think that's better for the people that like obviously have experience and things of all the different types of equipment, because then you can compare. And just on sort of the business and marketing side of things, she says as well it gives them more ideas, because that's things that you don't really get taught at university and things. So she said a lot of like website setups and social media information, she found that really helpful, and actually just being able to talk to people there and then, just getting like tips right away, and sometimes them showing her on her phone and things of things that she can do. She found that quite like rewarding and useful.
That's cool. And that's the clinic owner bringing 3 of her staff with her to kind of benefit from the whole thing. So yeah, very cool. Gary's just mentioned it. Is the idea of a lunch break, I think, came up pretty much around lunchtime when we realized no one had lunch, but it would be beneficial for so many reasons. I think just to have a break and reflect and think about what you've taken in, because if you don't get that break, we all know that it doesn't really sink in unless you stop, talk about it, discuss it with somebody. You just go straight on to the next one and it just doesn't stay there, it just disappears. And also I like your idea, Gary's mentioned that because plans for next year always have already started for 2025. The advisory board will be pulled together. And I think one thing that we're already talking about and making suggestions of, as Gary says, is a lunch break from talks to benefit the exhibitors. So at the end of the day, the exhibitors pay for it, kind of. You know, they're the ones who are paying an absolute fortune to be there. So it's important that they do make money out of it. Otherwise, we don't have, or I say we, Therapy Expo, Closer Still Media, don't have the money to put on all the, to take the theatres out and all that sort of stuff. So, and there's a few more comments here. I'm just going to read from people who are in the house. Let's have a little look. Indre talks about getting lost. Great. I appreciate that, Indre. It's not just me. Indre bigs up anything in the hands-on hub. Yeah, that was very cool. Bonnie's hypermobility ones. Bonnie Southgate, it was lovely to see her back. She's going to be on the show. I think we're going to do, yeah, she's definitely going to be on the show. James Earl was great. He'll be on the show again soon. Paul Coker, Emma Hayes. Nikki says, I never got round the exhibitors. So many talks to geek out at. Yeah, it's interesting with the exhibitors. Just see if there's some.
We didn't have Claire Minshall this time.
There was no Claire Minshall this time.
We didn't have Claire Minshall.
No, there was a. Yeah, there was no Claire Minshall. And there's a few exhibitors who didn't go this year. And yeah, there's some discussions that have to be had. I think it's still just the current Therapy Expo, although this was the 10th one because COVID didn't happen. The current, since COVID, it's been different management, basically, different organization, same sort of people, but different organized. So they're still quite young in terms of sorting out, seeing what works best and balancing the exhibitors and the speakers and everything. So, but yeah, there was a few noticeable exceptions. I noticed that the theatres seemed to be, some of them were just a bit empty. Some of them, I've never seen it before. Some speakers reported back to me and said there were empty seats. Normally they're just full. So it's weird. We've got some theatres where people can't get in. We've got other theatres which are normally full and they're actually with empty seats. So I'm wondering, I don't know how that happens.
I think it would be more interesting if, like, say if there was, like, the app is obviously relatively new and we can all favourite what ones we like. If they could maybe hold out to allocate time slots. So say Theatre A is your biggest day, then Theatre B, then Theatre C. And then if you've got talks that are going to be really, really busy, put them in the bigger theatres. If you've got talks that less people are interested in, put them in the smaller ones, rather than having 3 theatres the exact same size and have some being empty and some with a waiting list of people to try and get in.
That's true.
Would it be more beneficial? Now, obviously, that requires people to have booked and then to actually open the email that says make sure you favorite your talks and all of that sort of stuff. But it would be beneficial for the type A personalities like myself that like being organized, that you could go on and reserve a seat so that when you get into the queue you can say, well, look, I've gone on in advance 3 weeks ago or whatever it might be, and I've booked to be in this talk because it's something I'm really interested in, and maybe keep 20% or 30% of the seats for kind of people to come on the day. Don't book the whole thing out by people, but, like, you know, have maybe 50-60% of the seats that are available to book online prior to the event, and then the rest are kind of walk-ins to the talk so that you can be guaranteed. And then it gives the kind of the expo chance to look and go, okay, well, everybody wants to go to Matt's talk, everybody wants to go to Bilal's on ACLs, everybody wants to go to Steph to Act, everybody wants to go to Anna Maria. So why don't we put those in the bigger theatres? And then if there is something a little bit more niche, like say, for example, the netball, or like I was quite shocked with Bonnie's, because Bonnie did one talk in the ST school and it was jam-packed. There was people sitting on the floor, there was people standing everywhere. And she went straight from that talk into Theatre B or Theatre C. And there was maybe 20 people there. Now, it was the last talk of the day, so we know people go home. But I actually ran 5 minutes early from her talk at the ST school to queue up in the other theatre, because I was like, if there's this many people here, we're not all going to fit into that theatre. So I left early and then I went in and I was sitting going, where is everybody gone? It's empty. And the second talk was actually even more interesting than the first talk. So I was like, how did people decide to go to one and not the other? And I don't know if she just caught people's attention as they were leaving, but if there was a bit of an interest kind of thing that you could flag what ones, and then they set the schedule to say, okay, rather than having these 2 really big talks at the same time, we're going to separate them because everybody wants to go.
Yeah, there's some great suggestions there. I wouldn't want their job of having to organise it, of things clashing, and it's very tricky, isn't it? It's very tricky, but they still need to play around with a few things. Definitely. I mean, they had the open air theatres. Those people have been before. Did the open air kind of theatre thing, they're taking the black screens down, did that make any difference to the sound or anything, or what did you find? Or was it about
not
the
so
same?
much the sound, but I think the problem with those open style theatres for me is, like, if you are at the back, you can't see. Like, great if you manage to get to the front. I was thinking actually whilst you guys were talking, like, it'd be really nice, and I appreciate this is cost, but like to have a big screen so when you're doing the demo, for example, I don't know, I'm just using the gait analysis because it's to mind, but you could even have a screen so it zooms on what you're seeing from the front, so people at the back can actually see it. I think that would be really great. And then you could put that in the bigger theatre as well, because you couldn't put a demo thing in the theatre because no one would be able to see it. But if you had because they have a massive projector, like, why not like have a camera and then the projection is actually
good idea.
What's actually demoing would be great. And then you'd fit more people into those really popular, because I think the demo ones tend to be really popular as well, because people want to know what can they physically do. And I think if you could have a camera on it, that'd be great. Yeah,
it's good thinking.
How about announcing when the talks are going to start? 5 minutes to such a talk at such a theatre or ST school or whatever. That way, because you get engrossed in talking, networking, etc. And the time just goes.
It's tricky with sound, isn't it? I mean, I personally thought the app was quite good. I think if you put an app into your favorites, then a little reminder came up and said this is starting soon or something. But again, that's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I was trying. I didn't look like it, people had told me, but I was physically trying all day not to get my phone out of my pocket as much as I normally do. When I was, it's because I was checking what's coming up and where am I supposed to be and blah blah blah. But I did find that a lot of people are in that position now where they are trying to keep their phone away. I'm not sure if an app is the best thing now. I just got the impression, maybe I was biased, that, and thankfully people are trying to use their phone less. I don't know, am I by myself, or were you guys sort of feeling that as well? I don't want to be on my phone tweeting. Once upon a time I would have been tweeting everything, and now and I was thinking, no, stick it away, just watch what's happening in front of me. I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And just enjoy what's happening and try and take it in. I think the phones can be a distraction. I did kind of favorite mine, and I was getting the reminders. And although they were useful, half of the day I felt like my phone was vibrating in my pocket. And I was like, I know where I'm going. I'd rather have the schedule in my hand in front of me and flick through it.
Yeah, I think so. So I'm not sure whether the app is as useful for that reason. Okay, look, gang, we're running out of time. We've gone a bit longer, if that's okay with you. If you need to disappear, we'll go on for another 5 minutes or so, just because I want to hear if there's anything else you want to add. We've gone over a few topics. Did anybody else have anything else they wanted to share in terms of good, bad? We've already talked about quite a lot of changes. Over to you guys. What have you got?
I really like the lymphedema drainage hands-on. It was the lymphedema hands-on hub.
Jane Wigg.
And that was fascinating. That was so exciting. Yes. And she was saying that they now have just this year been able to inject some sort of dye, and then they can see where lymph is and how they drain it and how they massage. And I thought that was really cool to see. Like, only this year have we found out this. And that was really, really cool.
We had a good episode with Jane. Jane's on the podcast. There's an episode with Jane talking all about that, I think about 20 ago, and we'll get her back on. It was very exciting because, again, for someone like me who's been going on about evidence informed and you're not really improving circulation, and now they've actually got some dye which shows how it is actually moving around with certain techniques. It's like for people with compromised systems, then it's it's nice to see. It's good.
I'm just curious, like, if you know what the ratio of different types of professions are, like, because I guess there'll be data about it. Like, do you know how many?
It's a great question. Gary, you listening to this? I'm sure Gary will come up with it now. Gary's founder of the STAs there. He's been dropping bits, bombshells in there. It's a cool one. It was something which, because it's sold as multidisciplinary, it depends what lens you look through, isn't it? I thought it was quite physio-based this year, but that's maybe because I was looking out for physio kind of stuff. I think a lot of the stands seem to be physio-centric. But then again, I can't complain that much, because when Therapy Expo first started, it was all massage based, but it was all kind of guns and cups and all sorts of kind of like
the attendees. Do you know like what the ratio?
I reckon we could find that out. Come on, Gary, you let me down, man. It's 10 seconds already. Yeah, it'd be interesting. They will have that information. Who represents what? We know there's at least one podiatrist there so far. I can tell you that. She's down here in the corner. But it's interesting. I mean, what was your impression? Do you feel that it was multidisciplinary, or do you feel it was kind of overburdened with one particular professional? Or
I thought it was better this year than last year. Last year, I felt like every stand was like shockwave.
Right.
I thought it was really, really heavy of the corporate side of things. And this year, I felt like that was there. You still had the big boys and stands, but I did feel like there was a lot more smaller stuff, a lot more niche-y. Like I'm really big into sports science and like bits and pieces for that. So yeah, I really liked being able to see like new tech and innovation. Like for me, like even new gadgets and things, like I might not ever use them, but I quite like seeing what's going to be like the new sexy topic for the future and stuff like that. I think that's really, really helpful for me.
Yeah, no, it's nice. Gary Palmer, I know you've trained with the being up there. He had loads of little gadgets, didn't he?
He's wicked, isn't he? He's so cool.
He is cool. He's a good dude.
So
Yeah,
cool.
we like Gary.
I had on the anti-gravity treadmill as well. It was so fun.
Yeah.
I want to highlight one point.
The Motex guy. Oh,
sorry.
Go on, sorry.
Sorry.
You go first, Chareeya. Yeah, what were you going to say?
Okay, so I just want to highlight one thing that I liked about the expo, like the concept. So I find like the talks, I mentioned all the talk that I love, like ACL, shoulder injuries, TikTok efficiencies, flipping pain is really nice one as well. But I think one thing that I got delivered from the speaker is we looks the patients as a human. So basically, there's many talk that try to engage them, not just physiology things, pathologies, but we looking more like nutritions. There was also one wonderful talk from I think Stevens about sleepings, like how could you help patients sleep better, which is really good. And also I went to the talks from Tim about shoulder injury. He also like how you're going to work with, agency coach, dietitians, nutritionists, and also ankle injury in netball. And I think it's
Tim Stevenson and Thomas.
Yeah, he also talk about, he give example of lovely case studies about the lady that got kind of like don't have enough sleep, what the food they eat, vitamin D, how about the suns. So kind of like this talk this year helped me to, have a bigger picture of one people. We don't look them as clients or just a patient, but we need to go like around or any like I would say factor that could be involved in one patient. So we might not just look as a physio perspective or therapist perspective that why you not get better, do you do the exercises, do you do this, that, or whatever. How about your life? Let's talk. This is I find is most of the speaker this year they try to point out this, which is really good. And I find is and I feel like as a therapist, not just the physio, but every therapist that go there, gonna get something from this point, and it's really helpful for the treatment as well in the future.
That's cool. Good feedback. If that was the message you got, then I think that's quite good. That's where healthcare is supposed to be going. And that's actually the idea of multidisciplinary, because as soon as you look at the individual, you realize that your profession and you personally might not be the best person for this particular individual, which is where the idea of us working together, and you might be better with that person or that person. So patient-centered care. Sorry, Nicki, you were going to say, what were you going to say?
Well, on that note, then I think it would be really interesting to have more nutrition talks as well. But that would be another idea.
We did have them last year. It's so tricky, isn't it? Last year we had at least two. We had at least two nutritionists talking about microbiome. We had talking about relationship. We had disordered eating.
Oh, I remember that
all
one.
Sorts of stuff. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's so tricky.
Well, Alma,
the microbiome one. I think I went to. And the other thing I was going to say was the Motex guy. There was a Motex stand and one of the exhibitors. And he's amazing because he's developed this way of record keeping where you can have it open on your desk and then you can be treating the patients and it takes all of the notes for you, like in a soap order. And he's amazing. Yeah,
we're going to have him on the show. He was next to the STA Theatre. Yeah, he grabbed me. He grabbed me and said, "Mate, come on, we've got to talk to you in Australia or New Zealand guy, I think it was." Yeah. He's going to come on the show. That sounded very exciting, very interesting.
I don't think he's Australian. He's from London. This guy, Harvinder, and he's. I think he's a Sikh. He had one of these things on his head.
Okay. He was right next to the STA Theatre.
I'll send you the information.
Excellent. Yeah, no, that's one of the best things for me of going to Therapy Expo is I get to find new, relevant people who can be on the podcast to keep it all fresh. So fantastic. Anybody else want to add something before we close up? This is your chance to celebrate a particular talk or reader or speaker or something. You're good. Okay. Well, there we go, people. Just checking the people in the live lounge here. Gary says, we get data on professions registered in the STA Theatre. I mean, every talk that happened in the STA Theatre that I was hosting, I did well, not everyone, but I tried to start off seeing what professions were there. And there was a nice mixture. And I love seeing that because for me, patient-centered care is us all getting together. And I love the fact we've got people here tonight. And it hasn't been that different, the feedback. We've got physios, we've got podiatrists, we've got sports therapists, sports massage therapists. It's all kind of been singing from the same hymn sheet, which is what it kind of should be if we really put the patient first. So Gary says, I will get all of the delicate data in due course. We will say that probably in the podcast. We'll let people know in the follow-up. Indre says, I think it was more multidisciplinary than last year. Defo more hands-on stuff, and it does depend who you were hanging about with. As a soft tissue therapist, I normally feel intimidated by physios. But see, Emily Sweet, you're so intimidating. But it was less of that this year, I think. This is useful as well because, okay, people listen to the podcast you can't see, but we've got physios here and they're not as intimidating as the word kind of encapsulates or kind of suggests. They're actually just normal human beings, most of them. So that's helpful as well because we do all suffer from imposter syndrome, and with whatever professions we are, we think the person up there, whether it's a surgeon or something, is better than us or knows this and we don't know it. And at the end of the day, we realize you can't know everything. It's ridiculous. Just specialize in what you know and you're good at and refer out the patient out to other people. So that's good, Indra. It's nice you've got that sensation that you don't feel as threatened, because that can be a wall to climb, getting over that, particularly for soft tissue therapists. Gary Benson says, I wonder why more membership bodies don't attend. It's a great place to showcase how we support our members. This is true, Gary. I'm sure we will talk about that further in our own reflection.
I think it would be great maybe as well, Matt, to add in, like, I don't know, a student price and go to, universities that maybe have student physiotherapists or student sports therapists, because I actually mentioned to they were second years last year, they're final years this year, and I missed one of their lectures last year. When I came back, they were like, why were you not here on Tuesday? I was like, I was at Therapy Expo, and they were asking what it was, and I actually bumped into 3 of my final year students at Therapy Expo this year, which is quite nice to see that they actually listen to me when I talk. Cool. It was quite nice to see them, because their output or their aim of going to Therapy Expo was to chat to some exhibitors and go to some talks to try and come up with their dissertation topics for their thesis and look at the research that's coming out and what the new hot topics is and all of that sort of stuff, which is really, really beneficial. So I think I'm going to try bring them on a school trip next year and bring a group of them over, which would be really, really nice. But I was wondering while we were there how many student therapists are actually there, whether it be physiotherapists or sports therapists, because I don't know, maybe they were there and we just don't notice, but I feel like it would be really beneficial for them to be a part of this kind of multidisciplinary approach, rather than feeling like a new grad that's just out in the wild, if that makes sense.
Like our Emily. Recently graduated, aren't you, Emily? Yeah.
No, I've been graduating now for 3 years. But it was my first time, coming to Therapy Expo.
Yeah. But you're new at the 𝐒𝐻𝐳 clinic we're working at now, aren't you?
Yeah, literally just my first week with her in the private setting.
Okay. Gotcha. Fine. Right then, we need to wrap this up, people, because I'm sure you've got better things to do. Gary says there is a student rate, I believe, but we will ask that to the organisers when we catch up with them in a few weeks' time. It makes perfect sense. It wouldn't be too hard to do with it within a .ac.uk account or whatever it is, the equivalent in Ireland. But yeah, that should be something we should think about, definitely, just to make it more accessible. Right. Who's gone black on me? That is Nicki has gone on screen black. Just so you know, Nicki. Thank you, people. Thank you so much. It's really so nice to hear from different professions, but then realise it's all very similar as well, which I think is how it's supposed to be. I think that's the idea. So thank you for giving up your time. Thank you everyone who joined us live. If people are listening to the podcast and they want to follow you, then let's just quickly go around the room once more and you tell me what the best way of people following you or getting in contact with you is. So Natalie, where's the best place to find you and follow you on social media?
I'm on Instagram. I think it's Clinical Massage London. Yeah, Clinical Massage London. Or I have a website, which is .com in the end as well.
Fantastic. Great. Thank you very much. And Shannon, people want to like the sound of you?
Yeah, so I've got Instagram, so it's Rebound Injury Clinic. And again, we have our website, which is www.reboundinjuryclinic.ie, because we're in Ireland.
Fantastic. We will put all these in the show notes as well. Danny, if people want to get in touch or follow you?
Body Health Gatwick, across the board.
Across the board. Good business. And Steve, people want to get in touch or follow you?
Personally, Mobile Muscle Therapy is my business. So that's on Instagram and Facebook and everything. And I've just set up with a sports scientist and a bike technician, which is this one, fitlabtesting.co.uk, and also FitLab Testing on Insta.
Fantastic. Brilliant. We'll make sure those all go into the notes. And then, Emily, if people are interested in keeping in touch with you, where should they go? Can you hear me, Emily? Emily can't hear me, but I will say, if you're interested in staying in contact with Emily Sweet, then you can follow her at 𝐒𝐲𝐫𝐿 on Instagram. And you've also got ISLA, so 𝐒𝐲𝐫𝐿 or 𝐒𝐲𝐫𝐿.co.uk. You okay, Emily? Can you hear me? No, she's got again. And is that, no, Chareeya, what about you?
So I'm on Instagram at 𝐻𝐸𝐴𝐳𝐲, so 𝐻𝐸𝐴𝐳𝐲, and also my clinic Instagram, �NK_Physio. So N for November, NK for kangaroo, and physio.
Fantastic, brilliant.
Thank you
and
so
like
much.
I say, as always, we'll make sure that all goes in the show notes because it is, I mean, I've told you before we went on air, but people are really enjoy listening to clinicians from the shop floor, as it were, talking on this show. And I know it can be quite nerve-wracking. A lot of you haven't been on this before, so well done. I hope you're realizing that it wasn't as nerve-wracking as you thought it was going to be at the beginning, but it really does inspire other people to come on the show and do what our listeners love. So I do appreciate that. Next week, people, on Tuesday, December the 10th. How is it December the 10th already? I don't know. But we're going to be joined by Christian Byrne and 𝐩𝐸𝐿 McEwen, who were the co-founders of Menopause Movement. They actually opened up day one for us in the STA Theatre this year with Power the Pause, the pelvic floor and more. So it was an amazing, great way to open it. They were standing in because Michelle Lyons, sadly, from Celebrate Multidisciplinary couldn't be on. But Michelle recommended Christian and Joe, and they just filled the floor as well. It's a great topic, obviously, which everyone needs to know about. So they're going to be with me next week. And if you are listening to this podcast, and you'd like to join us live to ask questions directly to Christian Byrne and 𝐩𝐸𝐿 McEwen, then all you got to do is go to the Sports Therapy Association YouTube channel or Facebook at 8 o'clock, and you can be in the live lounge and ask some questions directly. Until then, thank you once again to everybody who joined me. Thank you, people who came in the live lounge. And if you can please, if you listen to the podcast, do us a favor, leave a rating, leave a review, just so it just pushes the results up in Google, and the good word of our guests and the free time that they spend sharing their experiences and advice, it can be seen and heard by more people. So take a moment just to leave that rating, please. Till then, look after each other.
Handle?
See you soon. Say goodbye, everybody.
Can I share my Insta handle?
Oh, who is that? Who did I not?
I'm on at Shearman Podiatry.
Oh, sorry, you're a
It's
black
Nicki.
square, Nikki. Sorry. Before we do that, Nikki.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You're just a black square. I didn't realize you're still here.
Shearman Podiatry.
Shearman Podiatry for Nicki Shearman on Instagram. And then you've also got
Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Wonderful. And then website, Podiatrist Worcester.
Well, I've got Podiatrist Worcester or Shearman Podiatry. But if you put in Podiatry Worcester, then I'm the one with the most reviews. I'm on 293. No, 95. I'm nearly on 300.
Fantastic. Congratulations. That's brilliant. Right. Thanks, everybody. Say goodbye in harmony. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.